Hello everybody, my name's James, and for the benefit of those listening on the audio, you're listening to my weekly YouTube live stream Ask James, where I welcome questions from the YouTube community on anything football related. To timestamp this, it's just gone 3 p.m. UK time on Friday, August the 27th. We are around about 20 hours away from the game week 3 FPL deadline. Before I get into the questions, just a brief summary of the essential team news for you for game week 3. Kevin De Bruyne still absent for game week 3 for Manchester City. Ollie Watkins is due to train today for Aston Villa and does have a chance of being involved against Brentford tomorrow. Ethan Pinnock is fit for them. Neil Maupay is a doubt for Brighton and Hove Albion in their game against Everton. Stuart Armstrong still absent for Southampton. Alan St. Maximin is a doubt for Newcastle but should be okay. Jose Perez suspended for Leicester. Yannick Vestergaard still ruled out. Ryan Bertrand is available to play. For Crystal Palace, Will Hughes has signed for Watford but probably won't be involved for their trip to West Ham United. Andy Robertson we expect to come back into the Liverpool team for Konstantinos Tsimikas. Kurt Zouma unavailable for Chelsea, wouldn't have played anyway but likely completing a move to West Ham United. Diego Llorente is available to play 90 minutes for Leeds United according to Marcelo Bielsa. No new fresh injury concerns for Tottenham, so Heung-min Son and Harry Kane both available to start. Woody Bolly and Mosquera are back in the Wolverhampton Wanderers squad for their match against Manchester United on Sunday. That's a summary of the essential FPL team news as we have it going into game week 3. Let's get into the questions, see who's in. Pedro Gaming 2 says, swap Werner and Tony to Antonio and Neil Maupay. Maupay has 2 goals in 2. Help. Well, as just said, Neil Maupay is a doubt for Brighton, so that would be a no-no. I think if you want to make the move there, mate, just Werner to Antonio. Leave Ivan Tony for this week. That's absolutely fine. Reassess during the break. Bakaya Sukoid says, Mo Salah, Bruno Fernandes and Riyad Mahrez to Harry Kane captain, Romelu Lukaku and Dele Alli for a -4. Your thoughts, James? So, there's a lot obviously going on at the moment, particularly the news over Cristiano Ronaldo seems to have changed over the last hour or so. It looks like Manchester City have pulled out of a deal and it does now look like he could be heading back for a sensational return to Old Trafford and Manchester United. My thoughts are at the moment that in terms of building strategy for FPL and those thinking very short term and looking to wildcard soon, you don't need to think about this so much, is I'm going to want a premium forward to jump between Lukaku, Kane and Ronaldo, and I'm going to want a premium midfielder to make sure I can jump between Bruno, Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne. That seems like the minimum in terms of a setup. Now, you can switch that around to have periods like now if you want to go Kane and Lukaku. But then you're always taking a -4 to get back to one of the premium midfielders. So I think it's a one or the other. If you're buying now, genuinely, my preference is Harry Kane. I wouldn't say it's a certainty that he starts for Tottenham on Sunday, but I think we're talking about 95% or so. I wouldn't be stunned if he's not in the team, just because the team that's won the first 2 Premier League games probably deserves to stay as the team. But we're talking about Harry Kane here, so he probably will play. And I think that's the benefit, isn't it? Because of, as you said there, Bakaya, you're looking to captain Harry Kane this week as well, so that's your priority. When are you going to captain Romelu Lukaku? Do you want to captain him against Villa in game week 4? Of course, that's fine if that's part of your thinking. Are you happy to go without Bruno for Manchester United's fixture against Newcastle? Remember always to look beyond just the current game week. So I think that Bruno's going to be very popular in game week 4, isn't he? So, I mean, would I be moving off that at this stage? I haven't ruled out buying Fernandes myself this week. That was the original plan. I've gone a little bit cold on the idea. One of the reasons for that is Mason Greenwood being left out of the England squad. I think he might be able to cover the captaincy for me in game week 4. I haven't decided yet, to be very honest with you. Mohammed says, hi James, great admirer of your content. Thank you. Sorry, Bakaya, I should clarify from your question as well. Dele Alli, not worth the hit in my opinion. Obviously with Harry staying, he's now not going to be on the pens. He can take that off him. I think you'll see him further forward in these forthcoming Watford and Crystal Palace fixtures, but I think there's better players available at that value. So I think I would be looking to get Kane in, Bakaya, on what you're doing, but I wouldn't lose Salah and Fernandes, and I think you probably want Fernandes for next week. Can you lose Riyad Mahrez, keep Salah, Fernandes and Kane? That feels a bit heavy possibly. Lewis Stapleton says, will Christian Benteke score a header versus Sujan Shah just like he did last season? Odds are pretty good now. I don't know who's offering you that price, mate, but yeah, stick some money on that. I don't really want to quote that price because it seems ridiculous and possibly not true. Benteke against West Ham. Well, they're good aerially, aren't they, West Ham? So, I mean, if you want to have a bet on Benteke scoring a header against West Ham, crack on. Adam English says, the return of Cristiano Ronaldo to Old Trafford, discuss. So, I will tell you the information that I got on Manchester City from a very reliable source who'd informed me in the springtime that Jack Grealish was going to join Manchester City. Told me that Ronaldo was heading to City. Then the news stories were very quiet Tuesday. Then Wednesday it really picked up momentum to the point that it got to Thursday and everybody thought, oh yeah, oh my God, Ronaldo is actually going to City. So these developments in the last hour or so are very, very surprising. I can only think that United have decided to make a move. And I think at that point, Ronaldo's gone, well yeah, I'll go back home, in a sense, to United rather than to City. Ronaldo had said, there's quotes bashing about from 2015, that it would never be a money thing if you end up playing for someone like that. Use the words, it's about passion. So I think, look, in the case for Ronaldo, if United and City are both on the table, Cristiano Ronaldo will join Manchester United. And that's the way it's beginning to look, potentially, that United are going back in. PSG apparently is a no. City are definitely going to do some business for forward, surely, in the next week or so. I wonder if that Aubameyang rumour might come back around, just as a short-term option for City. Because as Guardiola supposedly told City this week, the rumour is that he wasn't that keen on Ronaldo, but he was prepared to have Ronaldo rather than, basically in his own words, no forward. So you have to imagine City are going out for someone this week, even if it is short term for a season till they go back for Kane next year or Haaland or whatever. I'm not sure it's what Manchester United need. I'm not convinced it's what Manchester City needed either, to be very honest with you. Ronaldo is not the player that Manchester United fans will remember. Of course, listen, he's still good enough to walk into just about any team in the world. I'm not convinced it's what Manchester United need at the moment. What does that mean for people like Cavani, who's just stayed on for another year? It feels reactionary, as in, don't want to be seen not to going for him if he's going to City and they've made a move. That's how it feels to me. And you're not going to turn, if you can sign a player like that, even if it's short term, but you're going to turn that away, are you? And I can understand Manchester United fans being very excited at the moment. But it doesn't make it an instant go in your FPL team, I don't think. I'd need to see it. Steve Jones says, hi James, I have Benrahma and Lukaku in the differential league. Both gone over 20% ownership. I'm assuming I need to take a -4 as I only have one transfer. That is correct, Steve. They both have to go. No excuses. It's a little bit of fun we do with our patrons with players who are lowly owned. Yep, they've both got to go, mate. Gary Speaks says, Jorginho, Bukayo Saka to Brian Hill and Pascal Gross. Gary, I presume you're here on a wind-up, mate. Brian Hill won't start for Tottenham on Sunday. It was very good last night, by the way. Very impressed with him. Works extremely hard. Got a lovely drop of the shoulder. Doesn't mind the physicality, despite being fairly lightweight of sight. It looks a really exciting talent, though. Pascal Gross playing right wing back, most likely for Brighton. Nah, I mean, what have you got Jorginho and Saka in there for? I think if you've gone this far with Saka, I'd be tempted to keep him for game week 4 and their fixture swing. Jorginho move on, find some money from somewhere else, I think. I guess there's a chance Lukaku will take the pens now. We'll have to wait and see. Antonino Gitto, with Kane now staying, do you think it's still a strong captaincy choice this week, regardless? What impact do you think it will have on Nuno's system? So, on our Patreon podcast that we released this morning for our Game Week 3 preview, I spoke about, obviously, I was at Tottenham last night and spoke about the different system that Tottenham played. Essentially played a 4-1-4-1 last night. Now, Heung-min Son didn't start. Ryan Sessegnon played as the left winger, if you will. But if Tottenham were to play that system again, it means Sonny's going to be holding the touchline quite a lot, and I don't know what sort of FPL asset that makes him. Now, I don't think Tottenham will play that way on Sunday, but it's a possibility, particularly now Kane's back, because the original thinking was obviously the 3 fast forwards, as you would have seen. Bergwijn, Lucas and Heung-min Son. But if Kane's back in the team, it means a slight adaptation for Tottenham. And it's enough to put me off Son. My thinking pre-season was always to captain Heung-min Son in this game week. But I've spoken with Suj about this. The idea that if I'm not convinced on how Tottenham are going to play, I don't really want to be captaining a Tottenham player. Therefore, I'm going to skip. I'm going to captain Mikel Antonio. Is he still a very reasonable option? Of course he is. But there's enough doubt in my mind for me to feel like it's not worth it. Ashley Topless says, clashing with Fantasy Football Scout team news. I'm torn. Well, I've just done it for you right at the start in about 30 seconds, mate. What's the chance of Mahrez to start versus Arsenal, do you think? I would have thought high. But then, I'm not Pep Guardiola, so you can never be too sure, can you? I would have said 70% Mahrez probably starts. I don't think you put any armband on him or anything like that. But if you've got this week, I think you keep, you play, and then reassess during the international break. Anybody who started with City assets surely started with them thinking Norwich at home, Arsenal at home, 2 and 3. And you would have known there was always a risk there of potential rotation. So I think you hold Mahrez. I think you play. I think he probably does play tomorrow. But Jesus' performance against Norwich would give you enough concern not to think about doing anything daft like putting the armband on him. Laxman says, I think there is a specific plan to injure Antonio at Stratford. Conor Gallagher will man mark him. I'd like to think that footballers aren't that way inclined of thought. Conor Gallagher is not going to go and mark Mikel Antonio, mate. You think Conor Gallagher's going to go and play centre-back? Joe Finney-Batter says, thoughts on Tottenham's group of death draw in the Vanarama Conference League. I'm very pleased with the draw, actually, Joe, because of the lack of travelling to be done. So I think if I could have handpicked Rennes and Vitesse Arnhem from the first 2 groups, that's what I would have taken. And I believe the third team, who I'd never previously heard of, is a Slovenian outfit. That's not too far to travel either. So good that we haven't got far to travel. As a Conference League group, it actually looks a little bit tricky, I guess. But if you had that draw in the Champions League, you'd piss yourself laughing. So no concerns on Tottenham getting out of that group. Minimal travelling. I think it's a very good draw for us, mate. Callum says, Benrahma and Antonio out for Lucas Moura and Harry Kane captain. Crystal Palace winning, West Ham boys blanking. Well, you crack on with that, Callum, if you want to sell Benrahma and Antonio this week. I think most people will be thinking differently. Lucas Moura, not an FPL asset. And to add to that, Callum, I wouldn't even be certain that he started. He starts purely on the basis if we assume Kane is going to start and we assume Son is going to start, it will almost definitely mean that one of Bergwijn or Lucas will not. Now, it's Bergwijn who got the rest last night. So does that mean it's Lucas that misses out? I don't know. Lucas Moura is not an FPL option. Antonino Gitter says, what is a better choice this week? Son and Livramento or Rafinha and Benrahma? The Son route means captaining him over Bruno. I do still prefer Son as a captaincy option this week over Bruno. It's just personal that I think I'm going to follow a lot of others and go with Mikel Antonio this week. But in terms of your actual choice, I mean, are we fancying, do you want to start Livramento at Newcastle? Very difficult to back Southampton for a clean sheet in any game, I think. And that makes me inclined to say that Rafinha and Benrahma could well outscore Son and Livramento. Obviously, if you stick the armband on Son, it should be the other two. Philippe says, hi James, thanks for all the great content. Is this the craziest transfer window in the last year or what? Yes. I think there's a number of reasons for it. I think firstly it's worth saying that the last few summers transfer windows have been shit. I remember last year it was like ended and it was like, oh, does anyone care? This is going to be a dramatic final 4 days or so. Certainly looks that way. And I think one of the reasons is the Premier League clubs obviously still have the power. Now, we know obviously PSG have gone for Messi and they've bought Ramos and Donnarumma. But outside of PSG and Madrid's recent links to Mbappe, it's all about the Premier League clubs, isn't it? So the power's still here within those clubs because of the television money, etc. And I think they realise there's an opportunity to make a move. Plus, you got those on the outside like Tottenham, Leicester looking in who have aspirations to be in the top 4. Clubs like Villa, West Ham wanting to push on. So the competitiveness of the league makes the desperation to improve squads all the more important. But in terms of the big names, I mean, every big name in world football has been linked to something this summer. I mean, who's the biggest name in world football that's not been linked to a move? It's difficult to say, isn't it? It's been a chaotic window and we're not finished yet. A-Man Talks FPL SC says, if Ronaldo is confirmed, Bruno the obvious premium to make way for him. You would think so, from that perspective, because you kind of assume that Ronaldo will take the penalties from Bruno, won't you? And take that away from Bruno, you are taking an important aspect from his potential returns. But Bruno's still a super player. Can he match last year's returns without penalties, for example? Yes, he can. I wouldn't be so quick to write Bruno off necessarily. But yeah, I think structure-wise, I've got it in my mind to think, yeah, midfield premium, forward premium as a starting block, just continuously going forward. Otherwise, you're just going to continuously be taking if you keep Salah and Fernandes, continuously going to be taking -4s to remove these superstar players to be getting a Lukaku or a Kane or a Ronaldo. So that's the early structure thoughts for me, is one big midfielder, one big forward. The FPL Happy Hour podcast is Viva Ronaldo. Hello to FPL Panda. FTLOL podcast. Afternoon, James. Best 4.5 million defender to replace Ben White. We'll be moving back to White in game week 4, but I have 2 frees to use, so may as well make a move now. Okay. So you literally want a 1 week defender. Well, this is one of those rare cases where I think it probably does bring Tottenham actually into the conversation. So I think probably we saw Dyer play with Romero last night, and I'd be surprised if Eric Dyer didn't play. I'd be surprised tomorrow on Sunday specifically if it's Sanchez and Romero. That would come as a big surprise. So I think Eric Dyer, he's probably a safe bet in there. You could make a case for the West Ham guys, but I'm going to guess they're not affordable. I feel like Dawson's 5, isn't he? If Dawson's 4.5, you should consider that, but I think he's 5. Otherwise, Ayling and Llorente at Leeds, options. To be honest, Daniel Amati, I guess, will play again for Leicester because Yannick Vestergaard's been ruled out. So that's another option for you. There's a few, but I'd literally only recommend those moves if you're saying you're going back, which I'm pleased that you are, because I've got totally in mind to potentially buy Ben White myself for game week 4 for Arsenal's fixture swing. Ryan says, thoughts on Kane? Since he's staying for now, you think he will try to force it again next season? Yeah, possibly, but I think what would be different next summer, there's 2 potential things. One is quite dependent on how many goals he scores this year, and obviously what Tottenham do. If Kane gets 35 to 40 goals all competitions this season, he's only going to be like 14 goals off Jimmy Groove's record, and if he breaks that, he's immortal at Tottenham, and then after that, he really can do whatever he wants. So that might be a different pool next year that's difficult. I think also there must be some doubt from Kane now in terms of how much did Manchester City really want him. Because all the ITKs are in the reports are saying that Man City's bid never got anywhere near in excess of 120 million. And that was never going to be enough to buy him. So how much did City want him? So I think there's a possibility that Kane feels a little bit let down by City, potentially. And I think he would have to see clear signs next year that City were prepared to go all out for him. In which case, if that was to happen, I imagine the transfer will happen next year. But even this time next year, it won't be cheaper than 120 million. Liam H says, if Ronaldo goes to United, do we think he'll take both pens and free kicks? Pens, yes. Free kicks, probably shared. Clatcher, hi James, play Jota or sell for free for Rafinha, thanks. That's a good question. It's possibly a little bit early for Rafinha, considering he's got Liverpool in game week 4. But if you've got concerns about Jota, I don't mind moving it early. I've said on a few of the pods this week that I fancy Leeds to do well at Burnley on Sunday. So I don't mind the move, but I think it's only a move if you've got no other pressing issues. Esan says, such a crazy day. Captain Son or Antonio? I'll be going for Antonio, mate. Teja says, oi, mate, CR7 or Kane for game week 4. Don't overlook Bruno just yet. And to be honest, Lukaku's probably got the best game week 4 at home to Aston Villa. Rhino's Lead says, hi James, you must be loving Kane news, question. Or has the whole saga lessened his legacy? P.S. Kane captain worth a hit. I don't think so. It's not viable for me, because for me to get Kane in, I would honestly have to remove Antonio, Danny Ings or Mo Salah. Now, I'd only be removing Mo Salah for Bruno Fernandes, I think. So from that perspective, for me, it's not worth it. So it depends who you're getting in. If I was at Wolves on Sunday, and obviously I was at Tottenham last night, if the reception that you got from those two games are anything to be judged by, then the whole gig is already forgotten. You got an astonishingly good reception at Tottenham last night, and he gave plenty of good reception back himself as well. So he scored a couple. It almost feels like it's already been forgotten. I'm sure there will be a game at some point where his commitment gets questioned because he has a bad day or something. But as the legacy lessened, possibly a little bit, but it didn't stop people singing one of our own last night or anything like that. As I said, if he goes and breaks that goal scoring record of Jimmy Greaves, then I mean nothing could cement his legacy more than that. A-Man Talks FPLSC says, hi James, sorry, second question. What is it about the potential Spurs 4-1-4-1 formation concerns you about Son? Quite straightforward. So Ryan Sessegnon really held the touchline, and a lot of that was for Kane to have linked triangles with Brian Hill and Giovanni Lo Celso behind. Now, to be honest, one of the reasons I don't see Tottenham playing that system tomorrow is you're now looking at Ali and Højbjerg being the two in the triangles behind. And creativity-wise, and the opponent we're playing is a little bit different. So, with respect to the team we played last night, weren't great, right? They were there to be buried. I don't know how we lost the first leg to them. Well, I do know, because we were pitiful. But there was never a danger, in my opinion, that we weren't going to go through last night. So, the danger with a 4-1-4-1 formation is that people, again, it's something I've covered quite a lot with speaking about Leeds in the past. People view 4-1-4-1 as a negative formation. The first thing to say is it's not. It's an offensive formation. But in that system, there is real onus on the two wide points of the four behind the one to hold very wide positions. And they don't need to fill space essentially because the two attacking mids will do that. And Son in that position means he's going to be holding a touchline. So how many goals can he get from out there? Like, he will genuinely be holding a touchline. It's not to say when the ball's on the right-hand side, he won't be coming in off the left-hand side and stuff like that. But I think that would be enough concern, and you haven't seen it, to make me think, yeah, do you know what? I don't want to stick the armband on him now. And that's confused me, because Tottenham in the last three games have played three different systems. In the first leg in Portugal, we played a back three. It was horrendous. We went back to the 4-3-3 at Wolves. Last night was a 4-1-4-1. Now, I think the 4-1-4-1 was utilised because of the available personnel that Nuno picked on the night and because the weaknesses of the opposition. But then you remember, with respect to Watford, on paper, we're playing one of the weakest teams in the league this weekend. So could he go 4-1-4-1 again? And if so, yeah, if that's what I saw, I'd be gutted if I captained Son. And it doesn't mean he can't return. Of course he can. He's a super player. Many of you will know how much I love him. But there's enough doubt. And I think it would have been a dangerous thing for me to do. Many of you have listened to me during pre-season would have said, I want Sonny. I think if Kane goes, he could go and win the Golden Boot, etc., etc. I don't have to be stubborn about it and not look beyond that and realise that the circumstance may have changed. It doesn't mean I'm going to sell him. Clearly, I've got him for 3 or 4, and I'll make a decision on him after that. But yeah, that 4-1-4-1 in terms of attacking output for Son, no, I don't think it would be good for him. But I also don't expect it. I expect Tottenham to play the 4-3-3 on Sunday. Ryan says, lots of wildcards going to be smashed for Ronaldo. Good for them. Optimus Prime says, hey boss, how you think to transfer out Buendia for Traore for a long run? You mean the Adama Traore that we're not even sure who he'll be playing for next week? I mean, it looks like, when I say next week, I mean game week 4. It looks like he's going to stay at Wolves, but there are some very serious links with Tottenham. So, do you want to buy a footballer who might be playing for a different team in 1 week time? No, not for me. I'd be more keen if you were in that position, honestly. I mean, Traore's got Man United. Buendia's got Brentford. Can you not just roll the bloody transfer? Get Buendia at home for Brentford, and you knew the fixture swing for Aston Villa was bad for game week 4, and then reassess then. And then if Traore is still at Wolves, they've got a brilliant run if you want to go for it. But Adama Traore at Wolves, just don't think he'll ever be an FPL asset personally. Conor Irvine says, do you think a lot of people will wildcard in game week 4? I think the numbers will probably increase off the back of the Ronaldo news and Kane staying and what Man City may do. Yes, and obviously Lukaku coming. Wouldn't be a thought for me. I'd say next to no chance of me wildcarding in game week 4 unless I get some horrendous injury news during the international break. No, I'm more looking at 7 or beyond personally. But yeah, people can't wait. It's the trigger, get the shiny new things. There's advantages in it. Short term, of course there is. Longer term, not necessarily, in my opinion. Kenny Faz says, hi, I'm thinking of selling Son and Ings for Kane and Fornals. Thoughts? Well, I'll make it very, very simple for you, Kenneth. I own Son and Danny Ings, and that move has not crossed my mind, and it wouldn't. On our Patreon podcast this morning, me and Suj spoke quite a bit about Pablo Fornals, and he's a West Ham fan, as you know. He just doesn't feel it. Fornals an FPL asset. He doesn't feel it. Static said, missed the start. What transfers did you make this week? You can rewind, Static. Now, the answer is I don't know. So, I'm going to wait very late tonight. Listen, when I do my deadline stream tomorrow morning, the transfer will be done. So, there's not a case of me hiding it or anything like that. I just haven't decided properly yet. So, Salah Bruno was the idea. Salah to Bruno, if I got through the week and didn't have any issues. And that's what's happened. As I said, though, Mason Greenwood not being in the England squad has really made me think about game week 4 and can he cover it. Now, of course, if Ronaldo does end up at Old Trafford, then that potentially looks far less attractive. Do I need to force in Cristiano Ronaldo for game week 4 against Newcastle? Which, if I haven't forced in Bruno Fernandes, would be a lot easier to do. Bearing in mind, I definitely don't want to get rid of Danny Ings this week, but don't mind getting rid of him next week. I could, for example, move down from Salah or Son and get Danny Ings up to Ronaldo in game week 4. Whereas if I've gone Bruno, that's it, I'm stuck. And I'm kind of looking at it and thinking, I'll be buying Bruno and I know I'm buying him for game week 4. And if I want to do that, I can still do that in game week 4. But I'm not desperate to do it this week. Liverpool against Chelsea at Anfield, United away to Wolves. As you'll see on my predictions on the stream tomorrow, I think United might get beat this weekend. And I think Liverpool-Chelsea probably be a draw. So I don't expect either of them to go particularly big this week. So what's the point? I'm doing it for game week 4, which actually, although it's the next game, it's 2 weeks away. And the transfer window shuts afterwards. What I'm more thinking of doing, and generally I'd just love to roll a transfer and have a third transfer. If I only had one free transfer, 1,000,000% I would be rolling a transfer. So what I'm now thinking about is some shit moves. So Shimikas to Livramento or Brandon Williams. But the more likely one, I think, is Cucho. And I think I'm probably going to go Zakiri of Brighton. And the reason I'm going for Zakiri of Brighton, who's 4.5, is they're all shit, the 4.5s. So is Zakiri. But he has been on the bench recently. There are some rumours knocking about Neil Maupay potentially leaving. Everton, who they play this weekend, are reportedly interested. I don't see that move happening. But there is an unlikely circumstance where suddenly minutes could become viable. And also, Maupay's an injury doubt. And Danny Welbeck is at best going to be substitute. Let's be honest, they've got injury-prone players, Brian. So could Zakiri suddenly find himself in and around the squad? It's unlikely that he's going to get minutes, but he looks the most likely for me. And it's also not dangerous enough. He's never going to be anything but third substitute for me. Or second once I get a 4.0 defender down the line. So I think my most likely move, even though FPL started 2 weeks ago, my first transfer of the season could be Cucho to Zakiri. Shit, innit? I don't mind Cucho as an asset, and I think there's every chance he'll break into the Watford team, but and with all these premiums now, you're looking at going, am I ever going to pay the 5.0 forward? The opportunity is there to move that down now. And it also opens up a few things for me next week. If, for whatever reason, I decide, say, to captain Mason Greenwood in game week 4 and only want to make one transfer, I could then go Shimikas to Ben White in game week 4, for example. It just opens a few things up for me within the game. So I think that's the likely move. Shit, innit? It's terrible. I'm not advising anyone else to do that, by the way. It's boring and dull as fuck. Callum Costello says, hi James, if I want Lukaku and Ronaldo, if he signs, I can get both in my team by game week 5 with just 2 -4s. Would you advise take the hits or use wildcard to avoid this? I don't get the desperation, personally. So, I honestly think if I went for Ronaldo in game week 4, I think I'd maybe be looking game week 4, 5 and 6 and then move to Lukaku in game week 7. Would probably be my thinking at the moment. That's where I'd be at, rather than having both. Have you got to have both? This is what I've been saying. Surely no one's going to end up with a front line of Ronaldo, Lukaku and Kane and just break the rest of the team. Is that what people were thinking of doing? And I realise we're just talking about the two here. But then there are going to be points in the season where you want Salah and you want Fernandes, and it's going to be another -4s to force that back. So I generally think the strategy is probably hop on best forward and best midfielder, and you need to be jumping around, which means you need the consistency of your other cheaper assets during the season. That's how it feels at the moment. So no, I would not be on board in terms of getting 2 of those forwards at the moment, personally. Lukaku, I mean, if you get Ronaldo and Lukaku, and Ronaldo looks like he's going to start against Newcastle, you're not captaining Lukaku till game week 7. What's the urgency? I realise, of course, Romelu Lukaku is a beast and is scoring any game, but that money can be used very well in other areas. For example, Ronaldo and Lukaku between them, game weeks 5 and 6, Ronaldo would have West Ham away and Villa at home, and Lukaku would have Tottenham away and Manchester City at home. Well, they're not great, are they, when Mo Salah's got Crystal Palace at home and Brentford away? And you need to be conscious of that. So it's a no for me on getting both of them, honestly. Stian Bosdale says, no question, just a celebration emoji shit of gratitude for the content. Save me a transfer this week, mate. Give the stream a like and follow. Wallops. Thank you very much, Stian. Yeah, if you're in the stream, give it a like. Give the channel a subscribe while you're there. Be very appreciated. And for those on the audio, 5-star ratings. Yeah, I never big that stuff up, but it'd be very appreciated. My friend Luke Disables in says, who do you think Hill will eventually replace in the Spurs 11? Looks a very good player. I think eventually, Luke, I'd see him playing on the right. So, I mean, I can see towards the end of the season, Tottenham's front three being Son left, Kane right, and Hill... Son left, Kane central, Hill right. That's what I can see it being in a longer term. And I think that's part of Tottenham's plan as well. Does look a very good player, by the way, mate. Exciting prospect. It's the sort of player you'll enjoy watching. Sagnet says, hi, James. Son out to fund Lukaku next week, even though Spurs play Palace. No, don't see any reason for that. What did you pick Son for in the first place then? To bin in for these 2 good fixtures? QG123, would you bring Greenwood in this week if you had Bruno? Or with this Ronaldo news, not bother? No, I mean, at the moment, be a not bother, and it's partly why, exactly, yeah, I might not be doing nothing with Bruno Fernandes. Although I have to say, the Ronaldo news has not influenced that decision. I was possibly not bringing in Bruno anyway, when it was looking like Ronaldo was probably going to City. But I think, yes, it's probably advisable to, if you've got United, what do we often say, don't we? Don't buy, don't sell. So I don't think you don't sell the Manchester United assets now. And probably this week is not a buy. Wolves away would be tough, honestly. I promise you that. FPL Depression says, afternoon, James. Do you think there is any chance with the way things currently are and are going that the likes of Tottenham, Arsenal, Leicester have any chance versus the current top 4 in the next 5-10 years? Yeah, of course, mate. You've got a chance this year. The thing is this. With top 4. You're a Tottenham fan. I know you are, mate. So if you sit there and you think, well, there are 4 teams better than us in this league, you've got no chance. I agree. Everybody would agree. Nobody in the stream thinks Tottenham are better than one of the Manchester clubs, Chelsea or Liverpool right now. But did any of us see what happened to Liverpool last year coming? I said on this stream in December last year, I said Liverpool won the league after they won at Crystal Palace. Could not possibly foresee what was going to happen to them. And within 2 months after that, we're going, are they even going to qualify for the Europa League? So shit changes. Chelsea, it's all still new with Tuchel. Guardiola is looking to move on in 2 years. Now, look, can these guys finish outside the top 4? I doubt it. At United, if they buy Ronaldo, I doubt it. But it's very, very simple, my friend. If Tottenham gets 76 points, and the same applies to Leicester, and to Arsenal, and to West Ham, and anybody else on that chase, any team that gets 76 points will finish top 4. And you can get the 76 points by just beating all the shit. So consistency can get you in and around it. Remember how inconsistent all the clubs near the top of the league were last season. So that's all it takes. It takes one to be inconsistent and you to be consistent yourselves. Do I think Tottenham will finish top 4 this year? No, of course I don't. But I know what the target is. The target is 2 points per game. And right now, even if we lose on Sunday, we're at 2 points a game. So for us to be ahead of it, whenever you're ahead of 2 points per game, you've got a chance. And right now, we're ahead of it. We've got to stay there. If we win the next 2, that means even if we lost to Chelsea and Arsenal in 5 and 6, we would still be at 2 points per game and very much in the running. So 76 points, I'm certain will be fourth. I know people think, oh, nah, they'll get 80 or so. Who finished second last year? United? What did they get? 75 or something? 75 is the highest total never to finish top four, was Arsenal in 16-17. 2 points per game is going to get you top four. I'm certain of it. So that's what you have to do. Forget the others. Focus on yourself. Consistency. The games against the inferior teams are more important than the big games, ironically. Marco Di Stefano, now that Kane is back, does Son still represent better value between the two? I think the answer in the immediate is yes, but there are some things that we need to see for our viewing with them playing together over the next couple of weeks that will help with that analysis. FPL Pepsi, this is easily the wildest transfer window in history, and we can't argue that. Darren Malloy says, are Spurs still likely to buy a right back? Tanganga still a risk to buy? Yes, in my opinion, he is. He's also injury prone. He also likes a yellow card. There was nothing to suggest in pre-season that Tanganga was going to be first choice or even in the reckoning at right back until we played the game against Arsenal and did exceptionally well. As I've said in the past, and you'll notice from Patreon, Darren, that the test for Tanganga is actually not the games like Man City Wolves. It's the games like Watford at home when you're expected to pick out a good pass and teams sit off you and stuff. So, no, I would not buy Japhet Tanganga, honestly. Are Tottenham still looking to buy a right back? Yes, I'm fairly certain that in some form before the window shuts, Tottenham will buy another defender. Fairly certain of that. J23 says, Vardy, captain shout question. Planning on taking him out after this game with Lukaku? Yep, don't mind that. You're playing arguably the weakest team in the league in Norwich, so don't mind that at all. It's absolutely okay. I think Vardy would be near the top of my list this week. Arif says, hi James, what do you think about Harrison as Smith Rowe replacement for 5 game week ahead? Thanks. So, another one again. I know it's repetitive, right? But what did you buy Smith Rowe for in the first place? Was it because you would expect him to go manic against Brentford, or because you wanted to bench him against Chelsea and Man City? Or was it partly because you knew that Arsenal had a very good fixture swing from game week 4? That's a transfer that I think if after game week 4 you're unhappy with Smith Rowe, then Leeds' good run really starts from game week 5 and you can look at it. Otherwise, keep Smith Rowe, mate. Andy Collins says, hi James, Mahrez is looking like he's going to price drop and I'm looking at Rafinha so I can put more forward next transfer. Should I do it now or roll it and take the price drop? Roll it and take the price drop is my opinion, mate. Ben BWFC says, this is the most mental transfer window ever. The 2 greatest players of all time both moving. Milan the Villain, do you think it's worth selling Jota to get Harrison? Got Ben Rama. All my mini-league rivals have Rafinha, or taking international break mayhem into consideration, just roll the transfer and have 2 for game week 4. If you know me, my friend, I'm a conservative guy, so I'm going to be the one that says roll the transfer is exactly what I would be doing in that position. Would I expect Jota to outscore Rafinha this week? No, not really. Then they play each other in game week 4. The flip of what you're saying is all your mini-league rivals have got Rafinha, so I'm guessing none of them have got Jota. Is that part of the point? In which case the advantage could be yours. William Jones says, hi James, hope you're all good, mate, and enjoyed the result last night. Random question, but if you were a manager, what would be your style play identity? Keep up the great content as ever. That's a really difficult one to stay because I think you've got to pick players quite often based on what's at your disposal. So, as I said, Nuno's picked 3 different formations in the last 3 games, and I didn't know that he really had that in his locker. We saw the same formation for 2.25 years at Wolves, and then we saw one different one, and that was about it. So, one of the rumours we heard on Nuno before he come in was, actually, look, he's really flexible. We just didn't think he had the personnel to do that where he was previously. Okay. So, I think I'm heavily influenced by the Pochettino years that makes me a big advocate of 4-2-3-1s, personally. But I think 4-3-3 is probably currently right for Tottenham, for example. And if I was taking charge of Tottenham at the moment, I think that's the system that I'd be looking to play, even though I have a preference for 4-2-3-1. I think certain teams at certain times are absolutely brilliant with back 3. I mean, it just suits Chelsea so wonderfully at the moment, for example. So I don't have set preference. Like I said, I think I'm very influenced by the Pochettino era and that being the best Tottenham team that I'd seen. Alistair Coper, hi James, what are your thoughts on Gundogan so far? I think he's been in really advanced positions, but doesn't seem to be getting the chances. Would you do Gundogan to Greenwood for free or roll? Thanks. It's a roll. I mean, look, De Bruyne's out, so I mean, he certainly plays against Arsenal. He's got to, hasn't he? Could even be on the pens. That's a definite roll. It's straightforward, that one for me, mate. Darcy K makes FPL worst game too easy to afford CR7, Lukaku, Salah. Alright, we all want to see your screenshot what the rest of the team looks like. Martin King says PSG after Haaland, I'm hearing. Okay. The conspiracy theory of everything. Hi James, I have a gut feeling that Mahrez will punish the sellers this week. Is it too much of a risk to keep him one more week? Nah. Guys, you'll know me. I'm not the one who's going to be the harp on. Yeah, do this. If you've got an asset I think can return this week, I'm a big fan of rolling before an international break. I want to roll. I don't want to make a transfer this week. I generally don't. I'm going to because I've got to. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. It's another really good week to roll. LR25, who do you think the starting back four for Spurs' upcoming game? I think we have to assume the same back four that played against Wolves. Tanganga, Sanchez, Dyer and Reguilon. Wouldn't be a huge shock if Christian Romero came into the team. Purely because if you're going to start integrating him, you would think that this is the sort of fixture that may be a good fixture to do that in, rather than all suddenly something's happened and you've got to throw him in against Chelsea in game week 5. So I think that's a possibility. Reguilon absolutely plays. Zero reason to think Tanganga won't play right back. And I would think Dyer 90%. And I'd say Sanchez 70%, Romero 30%. Rob Pick says, hi James, if Ronaldo comes in at Man United and takes penalties, how much damage does it do to Bruno as an FPL asset in your view? Could you rank Ronaldo, Romelu Lukaku and Kane in order as assets in FPL? Definitely, I've kind of covered off, it will obviously impact Bruno Fernandes, but as I also said, he can hit his return levels from last season without penalties. He's a superstar footballer. It's very difficult to rank them, Rob, when I don't know what price Ronaldo is. So if Ronaldo is 15 million, he's going bottom of that list. My instinct, I have to say, Rob, generally, let me put it to you like this. Which one will score the most FPL points this season? My money would be on Kane. But which one's the best asset? I think for the £1 million cheaper, it's probably Lukaku. And also the fact that obviously with Tottenham, there is a known alternative with Heung-min Son. With Chelsea, we're not sure yet in terms of Mount, Havertz. And that's why I think Lukaku probably. If you said to me now, right, James, you can have one of them and one of them only from now till the end of the season, I think I'd go Lukaku, personally. Stian says, how are you misbehaving, mate? Love the highs and lows. Like, literally, he's been good as gold all day. Daddy starts a stream, and of course he wants to roar his head off. But, oh well, it's the joys of working at home. We've all got used to it. Martin King, Group of Death. Yeah. Alejandro Perez, hey James, start Ayling or Tony this game week? If I go with Ayling, I'll play a 4-5-1 with Antonio up top. Alejandro, you already know what answer I'm going to say, don't you? Because you know how I work on my streams. You got a forward like Ivan Toney. He plays, mate. Play Tony. There'll be zero doubt in my mind about that. Even though I fancy Leeds for a clean sheet this weekend, still, and I don't think Brentford would score, I still would pick Tony. James Palmer says, will Harvey Barnes start tomorrow? I see no reason why not. I think the only one that would be a concern for Barnes would be a free at the back system. Which the only way I'd see them playing that is if Castagna came in as one of the centre backs, and I just think like with Vestergaard and Evans and Fofana all out, they don't have the experience or the leadership to be doing that at the moment. So I don't think they'll play a back three. I think it's possible with Perez's suspension. Did this for the advanced tiers on a video I did from yesterday when I looked at Leicester tactically. That I think a diamond is an option for them. But I think if it's a diamond, I think Barnes will play up front. I really, really do. Rather than Iheanacho or Daka. Now that might seem mad, but it's just what I think they'll do because the relationship between Barnes and Vardy, I think Rodgers thinks is really important. Now it could be that Barnes played in a hole. And they bring Daka or Iheanacho into the team is another possibility. Because you think Barnes picking it up in 10 position and running at people could be quite a dangerous player. I'd be very surprised if Harvey Barnes didn't start against Norwich personally. He's in my team. He'll definitely be in my team this game week. I can't promise you he'll be there in game week 4 though. Ashley Topper says, not seen Lewandowski linked anywhere. Lol. No, maybe that's the next one Man City will go for. Andy Collins, Lewandowski to Man City question. Be very surprised if that happened. I think Bayern would want a super amount of money for Lewandowski. And I think, to me, I think Bayern's view on this at the moment is one more year of Lewandowski and they'll try and get Haaland. I think that's what Bayern are thinking. I'm the dude. Hey, would you go for Brandon Williams now he's at Norwich and looks like we'll start over Gianlulis after game week 4? Yeah, we discussed another one we discussed in our Patreon pod this morning about now Livramento has gone to 4.1. And you think, oh, I've missed that. I really didn't want to. Yeah, I think Williams offers a nice alternative. They've got really nice fixture run from game week 5. Now, not that you're regularly going to pick him, but if suddenly you do walk into trouble, it's nice to know that, okay, they're not the worst fixtures. I mean, you've got for Watford, for Norwich, they've got Watford themselves in game week 5. Watford, Everton, Burnley, Brighton's not a bad 4. And Chelsea, Leeds, a bit more difficult. Then there's nicer fixtures again for them. Brentford, Southampton, I think it's Wolves and Newcastle. It's a really good run for Norwich, actually, from game week 5 to game week 14. And Mark Hammond, our Norwich correspondent, will be joining us on Clash of Correspondents before game week 6. So we've got the one attractive fixture that we look at with them before we discuss them in more detail, because they have got a really good run, actually. Where am I on the questions? Completely lost it. Thomas Coleman, is the baby crying in the background as it tries to come to terms with how to fit in all the premiums? Yes, probably, Thomas. Martin King saying Dyer's likely to rise tonight. Yeah. Told you there's a lot of bad FPL players out there, didn't I? Ayub says, with Ronaldo, I can see United win the league this year. Edwin Grant says, any update on the international break conundrum? Think of transferring Rafinha in. And thank you for reminding me, Edwin. No, there isn't. So we did a podcast on this in detail on Tuesday, which kind of went out of date very quickly, unfortunately. But I think the message in terms of you need to be aware of what's happening was still important and is still relevant, particularly for the South American players. So FIFA, I understand, are in their rights if they want to. If the Premier League denies releasing their players for the South American clubs, and it's some of the African and some of the CONCACAF nations as well, the FIFA would be within their rights to ban the Premier League players for 5 days from whenever the last international would have been played. So in the case of a Brazilian player at Liverpool, they've got a game at 1:30 on the Friday morning. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that player wouldn't be allowed to play till Wednesday night. So if Liverpool played in the Champions League on the Wednesday night, they could play. If it's on the Tuesday, and I don't know the schedule yet, if it was the Tuesday, then they couldn't play. So FIFA can enforce a 5-day banning rule if they want to. Now, I suspect some common sense might come into this. But yeah, I wouldn't be rushing to buying particularly the South American players. Remember, every South American nation is on that red list at the moment. So it will also, even if the players are banned, it suits the Premier League clubs better than letting their players go. Because if they go, they come back and they've got to isolate in a hotel for 10 days. And you lose training and match fitness. Okay, so they get a 1-game suspension in the Premier League, but they can still train properly. They're still match sharp. So, I mean, if that's what it comes to, that's what I think the Premier League clubs will take. It's an awkward and difficult situation for everybody, unfortunately, particularly for people like Rafinha, who's got his first Brazil call-up. He's obviously going to be desperate to want to go and play for Brazil, isn't he? And I think if the opportunity's there, he'll go if they can make that happen. One thing I've suggested, and I don't know if it's possible, but could the South American games be moved to somewhere that's not on the red list? Europe, perhaps? I guess you probably need a lot of the South American Confederation potentially to agree to that. Why would it be in the benefit of, say, someone who's hosting Brazil in South American qualifiers to play the game in Europe? I mean, it's not to their benefit, is it? They're probably not going to want to. So this story's going to run. You need to keep an eye on it. But yeah, generally speaking, buying of South American players on red lists, probably not a great idea for this week, because it's a problem that will come back and smack you on the arse in game week 4. Steve Jones says, from my understanding, Haaland has a release fee of 150 million now and around 70 million next season. That's fairly accurate, we believe. If you are Man City now, would you be tempted to go in with 100 million now and see if they're tempted? They've made it very clear that they're not. They're not. Man City not going to sell for 100 million, mate. It's Dortmund are not going to sell for that money. It's a complete no story. It's a no-goer. And if Dortmund were going to go up to the 150, well, they were just going to go for Kane, weren't they? Listen, don't feel sorry for Man City if they don't end up with no one. Martin King says, if Mbappe goes to Madrid, Haaland, if in line to go there, to PSG is a possibility. Yeah, Seamus Hart. If you were picking a wild card 4.5 million keeper, would you still go Sanchez? Yes, probably. And I think that would be influenced by, I think David Raya's fixtures game week 5 to 9 is a little bit ugly. Otherwise, he's the one who's kind of might be stepping out at that value. So I think yes, probably Sanchez. Obviously, if Southampton burn Leno, actually Aaron Ramsdale would be of interest. Brett Davis, swap Mahrez to Mount. Nah, keep for me. So you want to swap Riyad Mahrez, because didn't play last week, at home to Arsenal. Mason Mount away to Liverpool. I do realise Mount scored the winner at Anfield last year, but listen, let's give Mahrez another week. Milan Petros said, hey James, last year after Spurs played in European qualifiers, just went mad and scored some goals. I have a feeling that can happen again on Sunday. Kane for captain. Well, I wish you well, Milan. I hope you're right. Cherie MC, hi James. Will Basuma transfer to Liverpool happen? If so, he won't be nailed starter. Who at Brighton be replaced? Will Moda 4.5? Could be. They're not really comparable players, Moda and Basuma. I feel Moda really is a wide player, but can play that midfield position. They have players like Alzati, who I've watched Alzati 20-25 times. I still don't know what his position is, actually. And it's to his credit, because he's a very flexible footballer. There are rumours that I've heard this morning that, yes, Liverpool may be preparing a bid for Basuma. I don't quite know why it's waited so long. And I don't think, having sold Ben White, I don't think Brighton are in any urgency to sell the player. The player doesn't look like he's been kicking up a fuss trying to leave either, so I would be surprised if he left, personally. Mwepu is obviously the player that Brighton have bought to play alongside Basuma. Mwepu's more forward-thinking than Basuma, but there are some similar characteristics between them. Mwepu, I discussed this on Correspondent Week when Sam Murray came on, when we talked about Brighton. I said, he reminded me a bit of Yaya Toure, because one week he's playing holding midfield player and the next week he's playing as a 10. So I know that Mwepu can play a deeper role for Brighton. Replacing Basuma would not be easy. He's a brilliant footballer. Martin King says, with Region, I don't see 4-1-4-1 for us. No, I don't particularly see it either, Martin. But then Doherty played on the right of the back four last night. So I know what you're saying there. Son holding the touchline, and how's Reggie going to get beyond? I think there's possibly a little bit of overthinking in terms of how far forward Region might get in games or not for Tottenham. And I think the system is very important. Ryan said, Ronaldo a must-own if he goes to United. You got the wrong channel, mate. No one's a must-own. Darcy K, would you captain Kane over Antonio? No, I wouldn't. That said, I think it's a unique one, because ordinarily I think you'd look, I would say, if you've got Harry Kane in your team at home to Watford and you're not going to captain him, you should question why he's there. I think from my perspective, there is enough doubt about how Tottenham will play that is off-putting. And Antonio's on absolute fire and got a great fixture. And Kane is still a massive differential. He's 7-8% owned at the moment. So you don't need the captaincy to do really well out of Harry Kane this week. So it's an unusual one where I'm going to say it's okay not to. I'm on Antonio, and if I had Kane, I'd still be on Antonio. Stian Bosdale says, I'm building my carriage, and my question is, when setting up the 2-4, does the curve of the timer go on the inside or outside? Thanks. Stian, I struggle with shit like this, mate. Save that one for the Patreon Q&A. Andrew Jarvis says, hello, James. Late to the stream. Hopefully time for my question. What are your thoughts on Dele Alli as a 1 week punt using one of my free transfers? For a 1 week punt, don't mind it at all. Longer term would have no interest at the moment. For a 1 weeker, yeah, don't mind that. Don't mind that, but only over, like, if you've already got Ben Rama, for example. Otherwise, I'd go Ben Rama over him. I'd go Harvey Barnes over him if it's affordable as well. But for a 1 weeker, I don't mind it. Atul says, hey James, thoughts on Harrison? He looked off it, but scored 2 goals along with an assist last week. Don't have Ben Rama, but trying to hold off on making the transfer. Atul, I feel like you asked me about Jack Harrison on this stream last week, mate. Jack Harrison's not going anywhere, mate. It's going absolutely nowhere for me. Can't see it. love what they've got from game week 5 onwards. He ain't going anywhere. Maya said, sell Barnes and Ings for Benrahma and Calvert-Lewin on a free. No, stay as you are, mate. Frodo says, your thoughts on Ings to Bamford instead of DCL? No, this is a conversation for next week. If you're looking from next week, I probably prefer DCL over Bamford just because I think the options of Rafinha, Harrison are great for Leeds at the moment. Not that Damari Gray's a bad shout at $1 million cheaper, but I think Harrison, Rafinha would be great priorities for me. Do you want the free? No. I think Calvert-Lewin will stand out as Everton's talisman as the season goes on. There are some reports actually that Richarlison may yet leave before the window closes. Atta also says, sorry if this was already asked, but your thoughts on this transfer window in general. Is this something you like or dislike? It's great, isn't it? It's great. By all the Kane nonsense, it's been fun seeing all the carnage going on. Rob Pick says, naive of me to ask a Ronaldo, Kane, Lukaku question, thinking you wouldn't have covered. As someone who hasn't seen him much, could you tell me about Oliver Skip? Who would you compare him to as a player style? Harry Winks. With defensive structure and understanding. They're very similar players. Just that Oliver Skip has a far greater understanding of what's happening around him off the ball. It's above his years. Defensively, much better. So that's a comparable player, if I'm honest. I saw Ollie as a 16-year-old in a game for the under-23s at Wimbledon, playing against men. And he stood out, and he was the youngest player on the pitch. He doesn't look 20, 21, however old he is. He looks like he's already in his 30s. He's a super, super talent. There's every chance he'll be in the England squad for the 2022 World Cup. Chris Farr, he said, the first time in FPL, my first transfer of the season is me to bring in a 4.0 defender, live momentum in for White. Red start season, have no immediate changes needed. Keep it up, James, thank you. And we'll finish finally on FPL Swap. It says, hi James, love Planet more and more. You and Sid smashing it. Can you fill me in on the 4141, the impact on Sun? Thanks, mate. Well, I have done that. I know you asked me that because I messaged you back about my concerns about it earlier, but obviously have covered on the stream. I'll leave it there. Thanks for your questions, guys. Sorry to those of you who I haven't got to. Another chance tomorrow to get some questions in. Deadline stream will be live on YouTube at 10 a.m. in the final hour before the game week 3 deadline. And I can promise you my team will be locked in by that point. Coming up next week on Planet FPL, it's worth saying that, what's the date today? 27th. First of the month is September. If you want to support us on Patreon, I would say wait till the 1st. That's a great time to support us because I don't want you getting charged twice in the next week or so. But if you do want to sign up and support Planet FPL on Patreon now, please feel free to do so. Anyone that signs up between now and the 31st, I will refund your payment so you're not charged twice this week. Obviously, join our Slack community, the Planet FPL community, from basic tier, 5 additional podcasts from intermediate tier, and additional videos for the advanced tiers. From advanced tier and above. I can tell you some of the main podcasts next week will be Game Week 3 review on Monday. Tuesday will be a people's poll. I imagine in some way it's going to be transfer window related. Sky Fantasy Football, for me, that starts this week. Once this weekend's gone, big podcast on that on Wednesday. Thursday's clash of the correspondents will be Leeds versus Liverpool with FPL Tactician, FPL Loco Lord, and we're also going to have Sifgo and Bradley Parker on previewing Watford and Wolves before game week 4 starts as well. And I'll be streaming for you with Ask James again this time next week. Other than that, just leaves me to say be nice to each other, good luck for the game week, and for the benefit of those listening on the audio, cue music please, man child.